Hello and welcome to my office. I thought I would take just a minute to talk about a congregational meeting. Why do we have it? What's that about? For those of you who might be interested in knowing more, especially I think it'd be great to save some time on Sunday when we're all done with the service and ready to be heading out to get some lunch and watch some football and do all those things, that I don't take time then to explain all the details of congregational meetings. So for those who want to know more, this is your video. I will share with you why we have them and what they're about. I guess the simplest reason to say we have congregational meetings because our Constitution of the Presbyterian Church USA, in our Book of Order, it requires that we have one once a year. That's the legal reason, but the more important reason is that we have things we need to do that the congregation has to vote on. The other reason when talking about legality is that we're also a nonprofit corporation, so we also need to be having meetings for the purposes of the corporation. There's actually one item on the agenda this time around having to do with that. So those are the reasons why we have congregational meetings. The what of congregational meetings has to do with things that we need to vote on. So first of all, let's just talk about how we run our polity or our government as Presbyterians. The word Presbyterian comes from the Greek word for elder. We are an elder-led church, not just in the congregation, but also at the denominational and the national level. What that means is that we elect elders who are charged with discerning the will of God for us and holding us to be faithful to the things that God is calling us to do according to Scripture. So those elders come in two forms. We have ruling elders and we have teaching elders. A teaching elder is what I am. Those are sometimes also called ministers of word and sacrament. And we are the ones who are the pastors of the churches. We are the ones who are charged with preaching and teaching and administering the sacraments and really shepherding the congregation. I'm not going to get into details and all that means right now. Ruling elders, on the other hand, are elected by the congregation for the purpose of not lording it over or ruling a congregation, but holding them to those standards that I just mentioned. And they are elected for terms of service. They can be elected for a term of service up to 3 years, and they can be re-elected one time for a maximum consecutive number of years of 6. And this is again set in our Constitution, our Book of Order. Then they have to step off for at least 1 year before serving again. So our congregational meetings are important because at those meetings we elect our elders. Every congregation gets to decide how many elders they would like to have, and those are set in the bylaws of the congregation. You can also have a board of deacons. We chose not to do that. We could have them at some time, but if we had a board of deacons, we would also elect our deacons. So how do those elections take place? Well, there's a nominating committee. That nominating committee brings forward names for elders to be voted on. And then there's also always allowed nominations from the floor. Those rarely, if ever, happen, but that's part of our Constitution. And then there's a vote, and majority rules in the voting, and then our elders are elected. The nominating committee, I mentioned, they bring to us the names of both elders, and if we had deacons, they would bring us names of deacons. And they also bring to us names of their replacements, the nominating committee for the following year. So we will also vote on the nominating committee members for the following year. And that's obviously a very important committee because they're bringing forward names of folks that they believe we should elect to be our elders. So that's a big thing that happens at our congregational meetings. The other thing that happens at our congregational meetings is that we, at least in our case, we present our finances to the congregation. We need to be doing this at least once a year. You've probably noticed we do it more often than that in our weekly announcements and in other places. But at the end of the year, we like to do beginning of the year, because we do it in January, we like to give a full picture look of the previous year as well as the budget for the next year. The congregation doesn't vote on the finances, on the budget, and those kinds of things. Those things are voted on by the elders, by the session. And then we just present those to the congregation for questions and comments and time to reflect on that and to look forward, of course. So that happens at our meeting. The other thing that happens that is in our Constitution is that you all vote on any changes to an installed pastor's terms of call. So in this case, we have one installed pastor, that would be me, and any changes to my terms of call, even the smallest ones, need to be voted on by the congregation. So we don't have a personnel committee. Our session functions as our personnel committee. As we grow, we probably will have a personnel committee. But we have folks who then take time to evaluate those terms of call. They do include the finances, of course, the salary package, we would call it, but it includes more than that. It includes things like vacation time, study leave, reimbursements for various things, all that kind of stuff. So any changes in the pastor's terms of call come to the congregation for a vote at that congregational meeting that we do once a year. Then also, this really falls into the realm of the corporation, but as a nonprofit corporation, we have to have bylaws. Those really, they point back to the larger constitution that we have, but they also have specific rules for our congregation, like how many elders do we want to have. So those are mentioned in our Book of Order as congregational rules. So we have bylaws, and any changes to those bylaws have to be approved by the congregation at a meeting of the congregation. So we have some changes coming up, and we'll be voting on those. And then, actually, I think I covered all the big things. The other things the congregation might vote on, they don't come up that often, but one of the big things would be any buying or selling of church property also needs to be approved by the congregation. Even if we were to, get a mortgage, those kinds of things that's the financial realm where things would need to be approved by the congregation. So that's what's happening at our congregational meeting. Let me talk about who gets to vote really quickly as I wrap this up. So if you are baptized, you are a member of the church, capital C, the Church of Jesus Christ. You're a Christian. That is your membership in the church. But your membership in a particular congregation comes when you take vows of membership. So as Presbyterians, only the members of the congregation are allowed to vote. And this makes sense. I mean, these are the people who are most invested in the life of that congregation. So we try to do membership classes on a regular basis. We call them different things, but we do those so that people can join the church in membership. And then you also have to be a member to be elected as an elder and to serve in that capacity. So those, if you're not a member yet and you're interested in that, I would love to have a conversation with you about that and how we could make that happen. Any other questions you have, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you at our meeting.